if you're driving down the road and your vehicle tears up. Has that ever happened to anybody? Ain't that a fiery furnace? That's a trial. That's a storm of life. Because most of us, at the first thing, we get irritated. We get nervous. There is many things in this life that can cause us to have a fiery furnace. The great thing about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, when the king looked into that furnace, he said, "Didn't we not cast 3 men in there?" And they said, "Yes, king." He said, "Why do I see 4 walking about loose?" And he said, "And the 4th one is of the Son of Man." What that tells us, that in the midst of our trials, in the midst of our furnace, whether or not that it is an air compressor, whether it is a busted water pipe, whether it is like going home a few weeks ago on a Sunday night, I'd left church and went to Livingston and spent all day with Mom and Dad. And get home and find the water heater busted. Shut off in the house didn't work. And all of my tools was at the shop. Good place for them. That way I knowed exactly where they were. So I had to call someone to come and turn the water meter off. So that my house wouldn't keep getting flooded. But here's the bad part, is that when I left that morning, I'd left the washer running, so I'd heard a little water running. And so when I left here, or left to come here that morning, till 8 o'clock that night, water had been running. I ain't seen that water bill. It's probably in the mailbox, because I hadn't been to the mailbox in 2 weeks. I hadn't seen that one yet. Yes, I know, Sheila, it's right there at the end of the driveway, but that's such a far walk. Only thing they ever get is duns and junk mail, so I don't want neither one of them. I even tried what Fred Sanford done one time, tried to put return to sender. That didn't work too well. But that was a fiery furnace in my life of how do we handle that? How do we handle things? There is times in our life of where just the simplest things, we can't handle them. And we have to call someone. Who is that someone in our life? That is Jesus Christ. In the remainder of this story, the king called out Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He called them out to come out of the fire. And they didn't even have the stench of the fire on their clothing. Their hair wasn't even burned. Ain't that amazing? Because I know Thursday evening I was making dirt daubers at the shop with a welder. That's when your welds don't look good. They look like a dirt dauber's nest. And believe it or not, I smelt something burning. Welder Sparks had gotten up here and found a couple of little hairs that was still there. It had come up above the mask and was burning my bald spot and finding a little hair. And I'm thinking going, how's this possible? There's nothing there. But even in the midst of this fiery furnace, and they're standing inside of it, their hair didn't even get singed. How does phantom hair smell? Phantom hair is that hair you don't have no more. How does it smell when it burns? It blows my mind. But he called them out. And he said, he looked at them. And Nebuchadnezzar said that day that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were servants of the Most High God. Is that the God that we serve today? That God that was sitting on the throne with them in that day, is that the God that we still serve today? Yes. That God is still sitting on the throne. Amen. And today his son is sitting at the right hand. The one that we celebrated a few weeks ago. That died on that old rugged cross for your sins and my sins, because there is power in that blood. There is power. That power can take a drunk and make him sober. That power can take a foul-mouthed man and make him a clean-mouthed man. That power can take a perverse man and make him a preacher. That power can take a disrespectful child and make him into a loving child. And he stands here today as an example. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. I just got a perfect head. The rest of it, God had to put hair on it to cover it up. Ain't that right, Bubba? Me and Bubba and Eric and Jeff got a perfect head in here. Well, little Hunter's got one, but it looks like his is coming in because they won't be all perfect anymore. And I want to share a little story that just brings it up in memory. I think I told Joe about it this week. My brother Joel, when he was probably 4 or 5 years old. Of course, I wasn't alive then, but because he was older than me, but I've always been told the story. We had an Uncle Charlie. He was that uncle that everybody always loved, and he loved to aggravate and pick at you and all of this. I tell my Aunt Judy many times, Uncle Charlie taught me well. Because as much as I like to pick and go on and everything. But Uncle Charlie, he had a special spot with me and Joel. And Joel walked into the barber shop one day and he said, and the barber asked him, "Hey, what's your hair cut?" He said, "I want an Uncle Charlie haircut." He said, "Well, I don't know you, Uncle Charlie." He said, "So what kind of hair does he, how's it cut?" He said, "Well, he ain't got none right through here, but he's got some right around here, and that's how I want my hair cut." And that barber said, "Son, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to cut your hair that way. Your mom and daddy would kill me." He wanted a head like Uncle Charlie. And thinking about that smell of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they didn't have that. didn't have that smell of burnt hair. Didn't feel the pain of that fire. I know I felt them sparks this week. That's amazing that God took their pain in that fire, and He will take yours too. Can you imagine going through our fiery furnaces in this day and time and not have Him protecting us? I don't know how people in this world go without God in their life. I don't understand it. Well, this morning, as we have as a song of invitation, come and pray. Because, folks, if you're not in a fiery furnace today, tomorrow is coming. Come and pray. Take a moment. As we stand to sing, would you come and pray?
Right.
Well, Chris, I thank God I got to come to church today and I enjoyed the service.
But anyone else? All hearts is free and clear then. Elijah dismisses.
Lord, we thank you for this church service today. We thank you for the great message that Dad preached. I want to thank you for all your blessings that you give us. And let us have a good rest of the day. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen.